Getting about those, thanks again for tuning into yet another video. We are prepping the tank for some body work. This is a brand new tank, of course. It's gonna have some imperfections. We already sealed it. You guys can see there's red coat on the inside, so we're just prepping it now. I have 80 grit right here. I believe this is 80 grit. It feels like 80 grit. You know, it doesn't say if it is or it's not. I don't know, but I believe this is 80 grit. Typically you would use probably 60 grit for this next step. We are just giving the Bondo something to bite into, that way it could grip. So the Bondo, you have to, of course, Bondo this. If you're going to paint it black, you should Bondo this. It needs, you know, it needs a little bit of work. We can see some high spots. I don't know if the camera picks it up, but you see there's a high spot right here. This is a low spot right here. Another low spot. And you can see it because when I'm sanding it, you see that some of these places it's not getting to the sanding. Of course, and my hand's all gray because this is all metal because of what I'm sanding. So these are all low spots. That's all low spots. You can see it right here, you know, low spot, low spot, low spot, high spot. So what you could do, you could keep on sanding until it smooths it out completely. I'm not gonna do it because it's a little loud, but here, let's do this little spot right here. We can see that this is a high spot right here because the metal's building up on the edges of there. So let me just hit this up real quick. So what we could be doing is this, keep on sanding until it's completely flat, kind of like this. I'm bringing it down slowly. This is a 80 grit, so it's gonna take a minute. You can use a power sander, an electric sander. That's gonna speed this up, but you have to be careful around the edges, around the welds, because you don't know how this was welded. You don't know if it's weak around the welds. This is made in Taiwan. I have no idea. You always want to be careful around the welds if you don't know how this was welded, of course, because you don't know if it's weak. You could go right through it. Typically around the bends and the welds, sometimes, you know, especially on the edges, metal is stretched, so it's a little bit thinner. You have to be careful. So we could keep on, you know, doing this on the high spots. It's basically, you know, you're adding and you're taking away material. With the Bondo, we're adding a little bit, but for this case, I think this is still going to show in the paint. So we have to keep on sanding a little bit more right here. You can see throughout the whole paint where the metal's building up. These are all low spots, or these are all high spots. I'm saying they're low spots because once we get to the edge over here, you see how the metal, you know, it looks different. It looks kind of like, it looks uniform with these spots. So once we put the Bondo on there, it's going to even out. So blocking, block sander, or hand sanding, kind of like this, I would suggest for surfaces that are contour, you have to use your hand. You are going to get flat spots if you use a block sander. Now, what does that mean? That means when I'm sanding this area, there's going to be buildup of Bondo on here, and it's going to be basically flat with whatever I'm using. So if there's a block sander here, I'm going to have a flat spot, and there's going to be buildup of Bondo on both of these edges. So you have to, you know, some of the spots you can use a block sander. I'd say this area right here, because this is supposed to be flat. I would say you could use a block sander here, but for the most part, you would have to use like an orbital sander with a, you know, a thick foam pad. That way, the pad can contour with the surface, because this is a tank. There's a lot of, you know, curves, and there's a lot of round surfaces. So that's just a tip for Bondo prepping up the tank. I'm going to keep on sanding this down. Like I said, you should be using a 60 grit. The Bondo's going to have a little bit more bite. I believe this is 80 grit. I think it's going to be fine, but I recommend 60 grit for body filler. So stay tuned. We're going to keep on sanding this, and I'm going to start mixing some Bondo, and I'll show you guys how that's done. Alright, so we sanded it down with the 80 grit. We can start cleaning this, because this is all metal dust right here from the 80 grit. So you got to clean this. I'm gonna use acetone to clean this up. It's just, yeah, the reason why I use acetone, it's faster, it dries up. You don't have to let, you know, water, you know, you don't have to wait for the water to dry up or anything. Acetone's almost instantly, and it picks up a lot of this, you know, contaminants. Or you can use a degreaser, whatever you guys want to use. Got a little bit of that in the tank. So yeah, you just got to keep on cleaning this. We already found a few imperfections. Like I said, this is all a low spot. The body filler is going to take care of that. The body filler is going to take care of a lot of this other stuff right here. I'm not too worried about the high spots right now. You guys can see I was able to get most of this out. Once we start sanding down the body filler or the Bondo, we're going to start, you know, hitting those high spots as well. So it's just, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. This stuff just takes time. If you want it, you know, 100% perfected, if you want it, I mean, if you want this to look absolutely the best, you have to, you know, you just have to put in the time. So a lot of these are low spots. Like I already mentioned, we're going to use the body filler. At the same time we're sanding the body filler, we're going to try to feather out these edges just to kind of get it to blend in and look all one piece. So it's going to look absolutely peach once we're finished. I found another little ding right here. Body filler is going to take care of that. I found a couple other dings on this right here as well. I don't know if the camera's picking up on it, but you can see that's a little ding. There's also another one on this side, I believe, right here. So you can see it by sanding it down, low spot. So minor little dings and dents. This thing has been sitting who knows how long. I got this, like I said, I got this on eBay. I mean, the tank overall is in great condition. There's another little dings and dents. The primer's gonna fill a lot of this, so don't be worried about this little stuff. Body filler is gonna take care of this, and then we're gonna use the filler primer. That's gonna take care of all the little tiny stuff that the Bondo didn't get. So yeah, it's a process. Just keep on cleaning this. Try to clean it absolutely. Use acetone, of course, and once we're ready for the Bondo, we'll tune back in and I'll show you guys how to mix the Bondo properly. It's a cool day, so you have to kind of like spraying paint. You have to know the weather conditions, because I mean, you don't want it to be too soft, because then it's never gonna dry. And then if you put too much hardener, then of course it's gonna start drying, you know, while you're mixing it. So just keep on cleaning this and tune back in. All right, so let's go ahead and mix up some body filler. This is Bondo. It's like 14 bucks. You could get this at Walmart, pretty cheap. This also comes with hardener, of course, cream hardener. So we're gonna use about, maybe say about dime size. It's a little cool today. We don't want to use too much of this, so we'll just use enough. Maybe about, yeah, I'd say about a dime size for today's weather. I also went ahead and I protected, I used some masking tape to protect my spreader. You know, this just to kind of help clean it up after I'm done doing this. Because if you get any, you know, nicks or any, you know, just hardener or Bondo that dries on this thing's going to be completely useless. But I mean, they're only about $4. Bondo spreader. This is going to be enough to kind of cover that back area. So make sure if you're, you know, if you have a low spot, and the low spot's of course like 4 inches wide, you have to make sure you have a spreader big enough. Or you could always overlap it, but there's a chance that you might dig into, you know, with the corner of your spreader. So it's always good to kind of have a big one, kind of like this, a wide one. I believe this is 6 inches. So it's always good to kind of go over a little bit, and then you could always sand it down after. So let's go ahead and grab some of this Bondo. We're gonna mix it in here. Just grab the edge. Oh, maybe I could get something else. This is not gonna fit. Yeah, it's a little tough. So we're using a piece of cardboard here to kind of mix this. You can use whatever you want. I don't like, you know, the cleanup, so I'm trying to just use whatever trash I got laying around. So this isn't really helping. So you don't have to worry about, you know, overusing this stuff. You could always buy some more. I mean, it is cheap. Like I said, it's only like 14 bucks. It's body filler. So we have quite a few low spots in this thing. We are going to, I don't know, maybe use this much. That looks about right. Maybe a little bit more. I don't want to keep on mixing this stuff. So go ahead and cover up your Bondo. This doesn't dry until you put that hardener in it, so don't worry about, you know, taking your time or whatever. Let's go ahead and put it, say, right there. So that's about a, what is that, grain? Probably about a dime size. Try to clean this up a little bit. Alright, so now we got to mix it. Of course, we have a good work area here. You always want to give yourself enough area here to kind of mix this up. And of course, we are going to be just doing this just to kind of mix it in there. Remember, we got to get this all one solid color. Maybe I should have probably done probably something that's not as shaky as this table. This thing's not going to let me mix. So just work that in there kind of like that. From time to time, grab it all together, and then, you know, just flatten it out. And then once again, these type of motions is what you want to do to kind of mix this stuff. And what we're looking for is just one solid uniform color here. We don't want patches of blue. We want a solid color piece. Might have to use a little bit more hardener. So this looks like it's mixed in there pretty good. Maybe I should have gotten something a little bit easier to mix on, but yeah, I say that's it. Maybe I'll use a little bit more hardener. Didn't really change the color that much, so maybe about a quarter size. It's a little cool today. Let's go ahead and mix that in there. I say that's enough right there. Try to get one solid color out of this thing. I am in the sun too, so, you know, just remember where you're mixing this. Alright, let's go ahead and grab the tank, put that up here, move this out of the way. So let's go ahead and grab our Bondo and start spreading it onto our work area. Try to you know, go in a direction where you have a flat spot all the way around. If you have a low spot and it's kind of like this way, if you put it in down this way, it's gonna follow that shape. So you gotta go a direction where you know it's not following the low spot. So some right here, looks like we're gonna have to mix more. So, and what we're doing here, we are using the high spots of the tank to kind of give us a direction of how we should be applying this. See, that looks pretty good. We got to get some back here as well. Remember, we still have to sand this down. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to need more. If you're having trouble getting to that edge, just scrape it down onto your plate or whatever you have. You know, do this and then just grab that, and then this is where you could actually spot it where you want to put it at. We know we have a dent here, and we know we have another dent somewhere around here. Well, we have one right there as well, so you just force it in there. You know, shape it. You know, you could shape this however you need it. I believe we have another one. Yeah, there it is right there. another low spot imperfection, a little ding. I know we have, oh there it is right there, you see? You always have to look for these, shape it, fill it, and then yeah, we are gonna need some more here. So let's put it up against our plate. Now we know we have another low spot. What is it, right here? I just saw it here. Let's see. We got to take a good look at this. That might be another one right there. Go ahead. Of course, you can put this all over the tank, but I mean, you're just going to give yourself a whole lot of work if you just, you know, start putting it all over the tank. I like to just go at it in sections, so I'm not, you know, doing too much work. Sometimes you gotta, you know, look at it in a different angle and let the light show you where all the low spots. We know all of this is low spots, so we are gonna have to mix up some more. Try not to leave too much on top, because you are going to give yourself a whole lot of work if you leave it really thick. So this is starting to harden already. Maybe I probably used a little bit too much hardener. I know we got some more low spots over here. You always have to be careful with the tank. Don't drop it, because you're just gonna make more low spots, more dents. And this is starting to harden up. I know there's another spot over here. Yeah, so once it starts to harden like this, you're not going to be able to spread it as easily. Let's go ahead, turn this around. I'm going to have to mix up some more. Yeah, this is already starting to harden. So I think the first time around was probably the right amount of hardener. So let's go ahead and remove this tape, and let's clean this spreader before it starts to harden. So I'm gonna have to mix some more for the front right here, all of these low spots. And I was thinking about touching this area up. Yes, I sanded it down and I got it pretty even, but like I said before, you have to be wary of these spots, because you don't know how the weld is or how thick it is, that weld. So you might make a hole in it. So let's go ahead. You can see how that edge is super clean still. You could put acetone on this, but you have to be careful, because this is a plastic. Let's go ahead and clean up our tool. You can see it's already starting to harden. So let's go ahead. I'm going to mix up a little bit more, and I am going to apply all of this, and I'm going to apply some of it right here, and then we'll just try to feather this weld with the Bondo. You don't want to use a lot of Bondo. Anything like half an inch, you're really pushing it, because of, you know, the bike's going to be vibrating a lot. There's going to be a lot of vibrations. There's going to be a lot of shaking, and Bondo doesn't really flex. So Bondo's not meant to cover huge dents. Like, I mean, if they're like an inch like deep, you shouldn't be using Bondo. You got to do some body work, hammer, and of course, like, or a chisel or whatever you got to do. So let's go ahead and mix up some more Bondo, and then we'll check in, and we'll start block sanding this, and then you'll be able to see what it's supposed to look like once it's sanded down. All right, so we're gonna hit this thing again one more time with the Bondo. We can see there's still low spots right here. So all of this is all low spots. I'm gonna try to keep away from the edge. That's what you got to do. You got to stay away from this edge. You do not want Bondo on the edge, because it's gonna crack. You go put the gas cap on, even if you were to tap it at the Bondo, it's gonna crack. So always try to stay away from the edge. I'm gonna try to use the spread from here to here, and then just feather you know, contour the Bondo. So we are going to be, I'm going to try to use a little bit over here as well. You can see right here, dang, we have a little ding right there. That's pretty much fixed. I think I'm going to hit it one more time just in case. We have this right here. That looks to be filled as well. We also have this one, still a little bit of a low spot. So we're going to, you know, we're going to hit that with the Bondo as well. So we're just going to try to touch up as much as we can. Like I said, try to stay away from the edge. Another little dent right there fixed with the Bondo. We're getting there. So I'd say this is going to be the last time I use the Bondo. Sand it down, and then whatever, you know, other imperfections that we have, that's going to be taken care of by the primer. So I'm going to try to hit all of this stuff right here too. Just, you know, all these little spots. Try my best in this area. So this was the you know, the most concerning spot. You can see that there is a huge low spot right here. And you can see that there's also a low spot right here, because this is a high spot. High, low, low. So that's pretty much what you want it to look like. This is, of course, you feather it out, and this is gonna blend in. So once you hit it with the paint, it's not gonna be so noticeable. All right, so let's just keep on working. That second Bondo that I used, it didn't really dry, so you have to be careful. Always use a little bit more hardener, you know, just based off of that, because it is gonna make a mess if it doesn't dry. It's just a headache to deal with if it doesn't dry, because your sanding paper is gonna get clogged. And you could even, you know, you can even let it sit for about 2 days and it's never gonna dry. So you always just put a little bit more Bondo. All right, so let's go ahead and mix up some more. I have another flat surface here. You know, try to use something big enough for you to have full range of, you know, mixing it. So if you don't have, I don't have a lot of room here. You guys can see I just pulled this out because every time I was moving it so I could put some more Bondo, I was getting Bondo on my hand and I had to take it all off. It's just a mess. So try to have it kind of fixtured somewhere where you're not touching it while you're applying the Bondo. So let's go ahead and mix up some more. Alright, so here we have, this is now the second Bondo pass, or the second coat of Bondo. We are going to try to sand this probably tomorrow. It's already getting late. It's a little fresh, so this is going to take a little bit longer to dry. I'd say probably about 30 to 40 minutes because it's really fresh right now. So I am using a sanding block for the top peaks, like I said. Here, let me see if I can find it. So anyways, this is a sanding block I use. It's just regular sanding block, and I'm using you know, cross patterns. I'm not going up and down this tank because it's not going to give me that that shape that I want. I'm going across this way when I sand, because I'm using the high spots on both of these sides of the tank. That's my guide. That's what you want to do when you're sanding. You want a guide, something that's straight. So I'm using these two sides because I'm doing this to give me that that even, or that guide that I'm looking for. So that's why don't sand like this, because you're going to be digging into the low spots. So you got to sand across. Always sand across all the time. All right, use what you have, use that as a guide, sand it across. So we are sanding it with an 80 grit. I ran out of sanding paper, so I ordered some on Amazon, so that's going to be coming in tomorrow. So I can't, you know, I can't sand anymore. You can see it's still a little, you know, it still hasn't dried, but it's drying up. All right, this is almost dry right here. This is what I put on, say, about 10 minutes ago, and then I went ahead and I used a little bit more. This is what I just put in there right now. So all of this is going to be sanding. Now you might be wondering, hey Jesse, why did you go ahead and put Bondo at the edge of this? You're not supposed to put Bondo on the edge, because you said that you can't put Bondo on the edge. Well, I recommended not putting it here, because you're moving your gas cap all the time and you might chip the edge. So you don't put it here. Over here, nothing touches this, so you don't have to worry about this, you know, getting chipped or anything too much. Of course, I'm going to sand most of this down. Most of this is going to be sanded off, but I mean, does it really matter? not really, because of course this is where your neck goes, your fairing. People are not going to be able to see this, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to touch it up just in case. So yes, I'm going to have that shape. I'm going to use the Bondo. Like I said, you're not supposed to do this, but nobody's going to be touching this. I'm not going to be moving stuff around this area. So once again, do not put Bondo on an edge like this. All right, over here you could do it. It's also not recommended, but I'm trying to clean this up as much as I can, because you're not supposed to, you know, sand or grind around the welds, especially when, like I already mentioned and earlier, because you don't know what the other person or whoever welded it. Like I said, this is in Taiwan, so just a couple spots, just touching it up. I'm trying to clean this up as much as I can. I try sanding it. I don't want to sand too much or grinding too much. You could always add material, I guess, by welding it, but I don't have a welder. So we're just gonna let this dry overnight and then sand it down again. Alright, so we are sanding it down now. This is of course the second pass of Bondo, body filler, whatever you want to call it. This is an 80 grit sanding disc here. That is just so we could get most of this material off, the excess. And then once we feather it out to this point on this side, we're going to start using a 320 just to kind of get it prepped up for the primer. We still have a little bit more work to do as well on the rest of the tank. But as always, use the high spot as your guide. Try to keep the sanding disc flat and even. Do not tilt it like this or like that, like so, because you'll start digging into the body filler. So what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to feather this out as much as I can with the 80 grit, and then probably hit it with the sanding block with that same cross motion right here. As far as this area, you could clearly see that this is like a low spot. You can see that all of this is a high spot, and then for some reason it just dips right here, dips under. So I'm going to try to feather this out by feathering, tapering, whatever you guys are familiar with. We're going to try to feather out, taper it down so it looks like this in this area. So it's going to, I mean, it's going to have a little bit of a low spot, but I'm going to try to see if I can hide this imperfection with the paint, with the overall design. I'm going to try to do some kind of design here where you won't be able to see it that clearly, but I think it's going to look 100 times better than what it used to be. These two were low spots. This was lower than this side, so it just looked funny. If you're to paint this black, you obviously have to make sure it's all kind of tapered and feathered in. So you can see in the front here, high spot, low spot. This is all body filler. We're going to keep on hitting it with this. We're also hitting it over here as well. This is a variable speed sanding sander. You do not want to use a grinder or anything like that, especially with metal and body filler. You might take off too much material, and you could probably potentially burn through or grind through the metal, especially like I've been saying at the edges. It's a little bit thinner. You have to be a little bit more cautious. So if you want to, play it on the safe side, hit the major sides with the 80 grit, and then for the edges, hit it with a 180. Hit it with a 180 grit or a 320, whatever you want to do. So we're going to finish this off in the front, and then of course we're going to try to finish off this right here as well. Blend it in, taper it out, feather it out. Once we're finished with this, it's going to be ready for primer. Alright, so we're pretty much finished with the 80 grit. I don't want to go too much with the 80 grit right now. I want to start hitting it with the 320 to kind of get it prepped for primer. So we're going to switch over to the 320. You could also use a 180 if you want to speed things up, but it looks like I took off quite a bit of body filler. So let's go ahead and swap that out. And then of course we could also you know, use it with a scuff pad in some of these spots, just so we don't completely destroy the edge of the body filler. Like I said, you do not want to do this at the gas cap. I think it's going to be fine right here at the neck because nothing touches this anyways. So I'm going to clean all this up right here, and over here I'm going to hit it with the 320 all the way around to get it prepped up for the primer. You could probably use a 200 grit, 180 grit. That way the primer, you know, just adheses a little bit better. But as far as you can see right now, we feathered out a lot of the low spots, so it's going to look a lot better now once we paint it. So this is the way it's supposed to look like. You see all these little patches, that's all low spots. So now it's going to have a nice smooth you know, finish. It's not going to look like crap once we spray the clear coat, because the clear coat shows everything. Because you know, the light's gonna bounce off of it, all these weird odd angles. So now with the body filler, it's gonna have a nice smooth surface to it. So this is what you want. Of course we could feather this a little bit more, but it's gonna blend in pretty good. That's why we're hitting it with the 320. I don't have a 180 with me, grit sanding paper or sanding disc. I wish I did, but I believe the 320 is gonna do the job as far as the primer being able to grip to it. You could also you know, I would recommend using 180 for this next step, because you could just lay on the layers of primer, the filler, primer filler, or filler primer. You could spray maybe about, I'd say, you know, probably about 3 coats of primer or 2 coats of primer, and then sand it down with the 320, and that will give you the same results. All right, so let's go ahead and get to work. Alright, so I have finished feathering out all the edges. You guys can see, looks 100 times better. This is done with the 120 because it was just taking too long. And I mean, all of this was pretty much raw, so there was already a lot of body filler. So we are still removing excess body filler off of this. And I think this cleaned up a lot better. You can see that I feathered it out over here compared to earlier, and I did the same thing over here. Now, whatever low spots that you have in the primer, it's not that bad. You can see it right here. There's a couple little equators, just little, you know, pockets of air when I was doing the Bondo. This is normal. What we do with that is the filler primer should take care of that. If it doesn't, then we use glazing putty. So that's the next step after the primer. And you can see all the little imperfections of the tank. Now, if you were to paint this without doing the body filler, you would see all this crap in your finish, and that would just look horrendous. It would look horrible. So that's why we did the body filler, to take care of these you know, minor imperfections, make it all straight, give us a good foundation for the base coat, and just give us a, you know, like a showroom finish when it comes to the final coat. So what I did here, let's look at this area. What I ended up doing here is I ended up feathering it into this low spot. So I didn't want to, because if you're looking at it from here, you can see there's a high spot right here that's all metal. So then on this side and on this side, that's all low spot. So it looks like it evens out in this area. So like this whole spot right here, right underneath the gas cap or the neck, or the filler gas cap, it's all kind of like jacked up. So I ended up just, you know, feathering it into the low spot. Same thing over here. So in your final coat and your final, you know, clear coat, you'll be able to see this imperfection. You'll see how it'll twist and turn right here. But I tried improving it as much as I can, and you know, just based off of what I did here, this is pretty much the best I could do. Hold on, my timer's going off. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much, you know, from the manufacturer. I think whoever did the tank, they probably didn't align it properly, or something along those lines. Now, like I said, you could do what I did over here. You guys remember this all edge? This was all jacked up. You know, you can see it right here. All right, this is all the weld. I tried blending it as much as I can. This is all feathered into the tank. So same thing right here. High, low spot, low spot, low spot, low spot, low spot. So all of this is going to look 100 times better, and you won't even be able to notice it because, you know, it's behind the neck. So I guess it doesn't really matter, but you know what, it's going to look a lot better now. You can see all the, you know, the dents and the dings. There's a dent right here, of course. We took care of that. Another dent right here, took care of that. There was a small ding right here. You can see that, took care of that. Just little dings and dents. You know, everything that you see, there's body filler out, and it's feathered out kind of like this. You guys can see how it's feathered out. All of that are, you know, low spots. And I believe there's one more on this side, little minor, you know, small tiny little dent right there, and another one right here. So that's what the body filler is for, just to take care of that. That way we have a nice foundation, and it won't show on the top coat, because all of this would 100% show on the top coat, unless you do a lot of filler primer. But we're talking about a lot of layers, a lot of coats of filler primer. This will just overall improve the work and the finish. And unfortunately, I do not want to fill this edge with Bondo body filler, because once, you know, if you hit it with the gas cap, that will break. That's gonna crack, so you have to be careful with that. So overall, the tank is looking good. Now we got to clean it up. We got to clean it up and spray it with primer. We have to use a scuff pad as well, just to kind of, you know, remove whatever residue the tank had from the manufacturer. Remember, there seems to be like an oil residue all over the tank, so we're gonna have to use the scuff pad. Get into all the little nicks and crannies right here with the scuff pad. It's gonna be a red one, so that's gonna be a 320 grit. We're gonna touch all of this up with the scuff pad, just to give us a good surface for the primer to stick to. All right, so stay tuned. We're almost done with this. Maybe by the end of the day, we'll probably have this primered and ready for the next stage. All right, so we're almost finished prepping this tank. Scuff pad, the underside. We are just trying to get all of this grime and gunk, dirt. We're trying to get all this stuff out of it, just so we can have a good clean surface for the primer. So yeah, it's looking a lot better. You guys can see this thing's looking fresh. All of this had gunk on it. There was minor rust. I don't know how long this tank has been sitting out, but of course there's always moisture in the air, so it's gonna rust a little bit. And that's what we're doing. We're just trying to get a good surface for the primer to stick. You don't want to skip any of these steps, because you're gonna end up paying for it once you finish spraying your final coat. And you might not see you know, the results of taking shortcuts, but eventually, in about I'd say 3 to 6 months, you'll start seeing you'll start seeing you know, the consequences of skipping steps and, you know, half-assing it. So we're trying to get all this stuff out. You can see that it's got a little bit of a color to it. That's probably just like the oil residue or whatever was on top of it. Just trying to get all in here. The scuff pad's really good for that, because it it lets you kind of dig into these hard to reach spots. So that's why you always use a scuff pad. And then it also takes the shape of whatever you're using. If you use a sanding paper, it's not going to have that same you know, that same result. So you have to use a scuff pad just to kind of get in there. Alright, so that's the first coat of primer. Now you can see the filler primer is really gunky. Like I said, this is sandable primer, this is sandable primer or filler primer. You can see it's really gunky. I'm spraying the can vertically because, like I said, it's halfway full and I can't really spray it downward like this. So that's why I'm spraying it at an angle like this, because I can't angle it, because yeah, there's no, I mean, the can's almost empty. So you can see right here the little imperfections of the body filler. So all of that, we're gonna sand it down. We're building layers inside of those holes of filler primer. We're building little layers and building enough to cover those up. We could also use the glazing putty, which is what I'm probably going to do. Just force that glazing putty in there and then, you know, sand it down all evenly. So we just have to look for those little imperfections. The back of this thing's looking pretty good. I'm noticing there's still going to be some iffy stuff here. So I knew we were going to have those imperfections, but you know, it is what it is. This tank's not perfect, but some of this stuff I am going to try to see if I could fix it with some sanding. Other than that, everything looks pretty even. I mean, it looks pretty good. Our body filler, everything that we've done to the tank looks pretty good. This stuff right here, I don't know. You can see, not even with the primer, you can see, I mean, even with the primer, you can see that there's still some imperfections with the body. So, I mean, we tried our best hiding this ugly weld, but I can see it right here, a little bit of a high spot, so we'll see what happens with the primer filler. Maybe that might blend that in, but I doubt it. So we're gonna let this flash for about 10 minutes, maybe less than that. It's a little cold right now, it's a little chilly, so we'll give it about 5 minutes. It looks like most of it's already dry. You could actually touch it. Always remember, clean your hands. Do not snack, do not eat, you know, flaming hot Cheetos or anything like that. You touch this thing, it's gonna ruin it. But it doesn't matter. Primer doesn't matter. You're gonna have to sand it down anyways. But if you know, once you're doing base coat, it's kind of good to develop those habits on not touching stuff, not scratching your head or anything like that with bare hands, because if you're touching the tank, you're gonna contaminate the surface and it's gonna ruin the paint job. So it's always good to develop good habits. Try not to touch. Use the back of your hand. You know, use the back of your hand to kind of see if it's dry or anything like that. So yeah, let's let it sit for a few more minutes, and then we'll come back out here and finish spraying another coat. All right, so that's pretty much the tank right there. It's already primered, ready for sanding. Next phase, of course, just sanding and layering more. There are some imperfections still. I don't know if the camera's going to pick up on that stuff right there. We're going to use glazing putty for that. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to sand this down. In case you're wondering why is that like that, it's because I didn't hang the tank up or anything like that. I just flipped it on its top side and sprayed the underbody of the tank. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We're gonna sand this with the 400 grit. I'm not sure if you can see some of the minor scratches from the 180. I don't know. It looks like the primer filled all of that evenly. So that's basically what this is. It's just You know, it's just us trying to fill in some of the minor scratches from sanding it down with the 180 or the 80 grit. Looks like most of it got filled in perfectly. So now it's just going back and touching up the little spots. Here's the front of it. You guys remember how hideous it was. We cleaned it up, of course, with the body filler. I see a little bit of a high spot right here. I think there's a little bit of a high spot right there. I'm not too sure. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. Because, yeah, it's just the metal, the way it was. All of this got fixed. If you guys remember that. That was a huge headache right there. Well, not a headache, but it was just, it looked really bad. A lot of little dings and dents right here. The dents on the side of the tank, they're gone. As far as, you know, the low side and the high side on this, the low and the high, it looks like it evened out pretty good. This is low right here, this is high, and then this is a little bit low. So this is just what we do with the body filler. We taper it, you know, we taper it out, we feather it out, make it even. If you guys remember, this was completely low right here, right in between. Now it's just flat. So that's what the body filler does. It just makes it a little bit more manageable. Alright, so here we have it sanded down. This is what your spot putty is supposed to look like. As you can see right here, you see how it just fills in those little imperfections, of course. This is a 1K primer because I sprayed it out of a can, and my spot putty has acetone. It's got some chemicals in there, and it is an old spot putty. So here, let me see if you guys can see. Some of the liquid dripped on here, and it completely removed my primer, so now I have to spray it again. But you can see this is all high, of course. A little bit of metal right there, that's also a high spot. And we have, you know, some minor imperfections here as well. Yeah, all of this high spots. So I'm gonna spray it one more time with the primer. It's feeling good. I'm sanding this down with a 320. That same spot putty also leaked right here, and it just completely ruined the primer. So well, what I ended up doing, you know, it's not bad, you know, it's not too bad. It's just you'll have to sand it down again. So you feather it out, because yeah, it dripped here and it dripped down to here, and when I wiped it off, the primer was gone. So you just feather it out and then respray it again. Not a big deal. All done with the 320. You could also see right here as well, some of the imperfections were filled in by the spot putty, but the tank's looking great. I do have a 2K primer coming in today, so maybe my next day off I'll probably use that, maybe. But right now I'm just gonna clean it up and then spray some more filler primer, a couple more coats of this stuff, and then we'll see if any other imperfections, you know, pop up. But it's looking solid, guys. Alright, so this is pretty much the second pass of primer filler. Of course, you could do this multiple times until you're satisfied with your results. So you could spray this 2-3 times, keep on sanding it down, and you know, get rid of some of those low spots. But the tank's looking pretty good. We're just gonna have to keep on doing this until we're happy. So that's pretty much the whole process of prepping a new tank for paint. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So you guys just stay out there, stay safe. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Yeah, this is gonna be the same process for anything, fenders, fairings, whatever you get, whatever you want to repair, and whatever you want to prep for paint. This is the same process. You can leave it primered, and then once you decide on your base coat, you could, you know, go ahead and sand it down with the 400 grit, and then spray it with some base, and then clear after that. But yeah, that's it. Yes, thanks for watching. All right, later.